Story 1. In my college dorm, I ran into her very drunk roommate in the elevator as I got back from a late-night cramming session. She said hi and asked what I thought about my girlfriend going home once a month. I told her that it didn't bother me. She said that I must be very open because if her boyfriend went home once a month to sleep with his ex, she would be upset. In retrospect, it was incredibly obvious that she was sleeping with her ex back home, but I refused to see it because I was into her and we had amazing chemistry. When I confronted her, she said that she had never actually broken up with her ex and I was just a fling. Story 2. She told me right after she came back. She knocked on my door, broke down crying, had me comfort her for an hour, and then broke the news. Her cheating wasn't the worst part, though. She was at a music festival with a few of our mutual friends, told everyone we had broken up recently, and hooked up with some guy. Everyone knew what was going on. However, no one messaged me even once upon finding out that I was supposedly going through a breakup. Sitting alone at home for the entire 4-day weekend they were there. Thanks, I guess. Story 3. I experienced betrayal in 2 different relationships. Both times, I discovered them being unfaithful in my own house. It affected me deeply for around a decade. I found solace in alcohol and it was a struggle to overcome. I urge you not to follow in my footsteps. Does it hurt? Absolutely, but it's much healthier to face the pain as it comes rather than exacerbating the situation like I did. Avoid drowning in self-hatred and pity. You might believe there's something wrong with you, but that's not the case. It's likely they will repeat this behavior with someone else in the future. It's painful, but healing is possible. The key is to allow yourself to process the experience. Story 4. Found a CD of love songs in her car. I was moving her car off the driveway and singing along to 9 Inch Nails. Something I can never have when it dawned on me. This isn't my car, and she hates 9 Inch Nails. I skipped through the tracks, and it was obviously a mixtape of love songs. The guy she was cheating with turned out to be the one she was always telling me was such a good dad, husband, and family man. All while I worked full-time, then looked after the kids when she was out working on her business. Story 5. She would always place her phone on tables face down, and when she was using it near me, she would angle her phone out of sight whenever an Instagram notification popped up, so I decided to see why. Story 6. My fiancée was driving us home from a party and using her phone to navigate. I went to pick it up and check the directions and she freaked out, saying I couldn't just use her phone without permission and that it was an invasion of privacy. I wasn't sure what to make of that until she left herself logged into Facebook on my desktop a couple of weeks later and I noticed messages from a guy I didn't recognize. If it hadn't been for the odd response in the car, I wouldn't have scrolled up through them and discovered that she'd been making plans to see him and lying to him about me abusing her for months. I was completely devastated, but I screenshotted everything in case she decided to gaslight me about it later. When I asked her friend about it, she said my fiancé had met the guy at a wedding they'd gone to in Vegas 6 months earlier and that they'd hooked up there. The friend had thought it was a one-time thing but wasn't surprised when I told her things had kept going. We'd been together for 16 years, and I never saw it coming. Story 7. Hiding her phone, changes in behavior, getting defensive when I questioned her about it in the beginning, and so on. I am very trusting, but my gut was screaming at me that something was wrong. One day, I looked through her phone and found she had been sharing explicit images and videos with a colleague for at least 5 months. All texts were deleted, but the images and videos were in her WhatsApp sent folder, as well as images and videos of him that he sent her in the received folder. It was enough for me to file for divorce. Story 8. My first serious boyfriend was actually the older brother of my best friend at the time. She was the one who introduced us and got us together. About 2.5 years later, out of the blue, she calls me. She says she overheard him on the phone and felt awful, but she couldn't keep it from me. I didn't believe her at first, but she was right. A few years later, at work, we were all sharing stories about cheating exes. When I told mine, the ladies were shocked that a sister would rat out her brother like that. Story 9. I found out through a mutual friend. They didn't want to tell me at first, but they knew it was the right thing to do. It was a shock and I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was there. They showed me messages and pictures that were hard to deny. It was a tough pill to swallow, but I am grateful they told me. It hurt, but it was better to know the truth than to live in a lie. It is important to surround yourself with honest people who have your best interests at heart. Story 10. She broke things off when she got pregnant. Sure, it was someone else's baby. Turns out I was one of 3 possible dads. Fast forward a couple of years, and after some paternity tests, we found out it was actually mine. Story 11. I was in college and we were engaged to be married after graduation that year. It was our anniversary and I normally had class and work that day, but I had taken the day off work so I could surprise her. I came home to my apartment, we lived separately, by the way, to find her ankles over some guy's shoulder. I didn't go nuts even though I wanted to. I told the guy to get out of my house, which he promptly did. She begged and pleaded with me, saying she is sorry, it was a one-time thing, she is stressed, etc. But I told her to get out as well. The next day I found out that the guy is actually the new busboy at the Cracker Barrel where she worked. So I took all of her belongings she left at my place and attempted to hand deliver them to him at work. He hid in the back while his manager took them from me. She called me the same day, angry that I came there and defended him, saying he did nothing wrong and I should leave him alone, and that she can't show her face at work now because everyone knows what happened. I told her to go take care of herself and that I wanted my ring back and the paperwork for it. She said she left it at her parents' house. She still lived at home and commuted to campus, and I was not welcome there. Her parents loved me, more than her sometimes, I think, especially her dad since she was an only child, and having a guy come into the family was a blessing for him. We would go fishing, hunting, sporting events, etc. all the time without her. So I called her parents, asking if they could find my ring and paperwork so I could pick it up later that evening, and then went into detail about what happened. Needless to say, they were pissed and apologized to me over and over. I told them it was not their fault, and it's better it happened now instead of years down the road after spending all of the money on a wedding, etc. About 2 hours after talking with her parents, she called me screaming and saying I had no right to call her parents. She is embarrassed to go home, and I ruined her life because of it. Later that night, I went to pick up my ring. She was not there, but her parents apologized again and said this hurt them also, and they felt like they were losing a son. For a few years after that, her parents would invite me over during the Christmas season and my birthday to give me a present. She would always leave the house, and they told me this really upset her, that they were still talking to me. I told them I didn't want to cause any issues with them and appreciated everything they have done for me over the years, but thought it was best to cut physical ties. They agreed, but I still get cards and emails from them during the holidays and my birthday. I haven't spoken to her since the day I picked up my ring. She is now twice divorced and has kids by 3 different men. Needless to say, I dodged a bullet with her. Story 12. I caught my fiancé and my flatmate in my bed together 2 weeks before the wedding. The fiancé did not live with us, and the flatmate had her own bed on the premises that she could have used instead. Story 13. After being convinced that I was mentally unwell for being paranoid, she was cheating and was getting therapy and medication for it. I went on her phone to see that she was worried about being pregnant with the guy I was told not to worry about. Story 14. A very random chance. Turned to his monitor, he paused a stream he was watching and told me I was disturbing him. Never had that reaction before. A few seconds later, a Discord message from his best friend forever popped up. Shit man, you're in a pickle, followed by, you have to tell her. I pretended I saw nothing and turned away. I knew if I confronted him then and there, he would deny and delete everything. But I am a very trusting person and I never snooped or asked questions, so that would give me a chance to read it at a later point. Over the course of the next few days, I read everything, including the conversations with the chick. The affair was fairly recent, from the past month or so, but I found out he also took women to dinner on his fun trips out of the country 3 years ago. At that point, we were together for over 3 years. I don't know if he ended up sleeping with them, but I didn't care anymore. The best part? He was extremely jealous, to the point of screaming cheater if I took 10 minutes longer to get back home from work. Story 15. She was a bartender at a popular spot downtown. I would hang out with her while she was working and eventually befriended one of the other bartenders, Jake. One day, I received a text from Jake that says, "Hey man, as your friend, I feel like I have to tell you this. Your girlfriend was making out with our bouncer, and then they went into the bathroom together. I thank Jake for being honest with me, sent my girlfriend a text asking when she started hooking up with the bouncer, and waited. 10 minutes later, my phone was absolutely blowing up with messages from her. First, the denial, then the "it only happened once" drunk mistake excuse, then something about it only being a couple of times but that she'd stop. I didn't reply to any of these messages. I just let her ramble until she finally said, "So we can't get past this?" I replied, "No, I don't think so." Story 16. You know how WhatsApp chat bubbles open up on top of whatever app you were on? He sent me a screenshot of something funny between him and his friend. In the background was a text message about a date he was going on with this girl. Story 17. She called him while she thought I was asleep and told him how much she craved him. I rolled over and told her to go then. She did, and she had the nerve to be shocked when she came back to find her belongings out in the street and the locks changed. Story 18. He left his laptop screen wide open when he went to take a break, and I wanted to check something on my Facebook. So, I just went to grab it and saw an open message. Back in the days when Facebook messages were pop-ups on the screen, it was right there in black and white with a girl I knew talking about how much he disliked me and liked her. I went home and didn't say why, then ended it a few days later over text. It was my first boyfriend, so it hurt badly at the time, but it's just funny now. Story 19. She commented another guy's name on a post on Facebook. The post was along the lines of, "I wish I was with you this New Year's Eve." She was with me at that time. I guess she didn't know Facebook would put her comment in my newsfeed. I borrowed her phone a few days later, and my paranoia got the best of me, so I checked her Facebook messages. Not only did I find conversations with the guy but multiple others, most of them explicit in nature. Story 20. Their best friend's live journal. The only reason I was aware of it is because my wife used to make fun of it with another one of her friends for being so cringe. It was very cringe. That is why I would read it also. So, I had it bookmarked and would occasionally catch up on it when I was bored. The girl was talking about her friend sleeping around on her husband at home and that it made her angry because he was a good guy or something. I knew she only hung out with like 3 people and it was easy to deduce which one based on other stuff. Luckily, I was more upset about the splitting and losing of material things in the divorce than the wife. Story 21. The worst one was when I found her journal, and in it was a list of the men she had slept with. My name was 2 up from the bottom, and we had been dating for over a year. One of the names below mine was her male friend that she swore nothing had ever happened with. Story 22. Blue is my favorite color. If I can buy something in blue, I will, including lighters. Found a black lighter in her car and asked about it. She said it must be mine because she doesn't know anyone who smokes. Didn't say a word until we got home. Went and collected 4 blue lighters and showed them to her. Then the black one, saying, "I only buy blue. Whose is the black one from?" She confessed everything. Story 23. I received a call at 2 a.m. from his wife, who lived in another state with his 3 children. He had recently moved to my town for work. He was also visiting his family at the moment of the call. Little did I know that, yes, he was visiting his mother, but also his wife and children. Story 24. Phone records. However, his behavior towards me was so horrible in the months leading up to it that, with hindsight, I should not have needed proof. If someone obviously doesn't care about you anymore and can't be bothered to try to be decent to be around, that's enough. Story 25. 18 months into marriage. She had been away at a friend's for a couple of days. Returned home and immediately went off to work. I got her bag and figured I would throw the clothes in the wash. Found loads of typed-out text messages and a printed address. Copied them all on a fax/copier. Yes, it was years ago. The weekend rolls around and she is off to see her mom. I give it 30 minutes and go out and see her car isn't there. Punch in the address I had found. Go there and her car's outside. Go sit on the hood and send the following text. "You better be having fun in there because you are in deep trouble when you step outside, and if he comes out with you, he is going to have time to think and regret his choice. Curtain twitched. She came around to the front and I simply asked, "How long?" Ended up with me going to her mom's house and saying, "She is staying with you until she decides who she wants to be with." She chose him. Bullet dodged. Story 26. First time. He contracted herpes simplex virus and gave it to me. Double whammy right there. Second time. I was using my tablet and a message popped up. I opened it, thinking it was my messenger, given it was my tablet. It was from the girl he was involved with, and I had all the proof I needed.